You know, I think we can now conclude that Mark Carney's entire elbows up campaign was a gigantic fraud.
Folks, there was so much that happened yesterday that I simply cannot fit it all into one video, but what we do cover today, I hope you enjoy till the end. Now, before we get started, I want to pose a question to my viewers, and in particular, my older viewers, because checking out my analytics yesterday, you guys are my main demographic, the 65 to 55 or 55 to 65 range. You guys are killing it, which is awesome. So my one ask would be, not just for this video, but all the other ones and going forward, if you could just simply share it with your kids, grandkids, sons, daughters, your great grandkids, and let's just spread as much of this news and information as we can. That's all I have to ask for you guys. So with that out of the way, let's dive into the news. Now, yesterday, Pierre decided to have a press conference before question period after hearing the comments from Howard Lutnick, the U.S. Commerce Secretary, talking about basically they don't want a deal going forward with Canada in regards to autos. And Donald Trump had made that pretty clear in the meeting, saying he doesn't really want autos built in the U.S. and Canada. He just solely kind of wants them done in the U.S.
Americans don't want to buy cars that are made in Canada. You know, I mean, we have the same conflict. So there isn't. It's something that will get worked out. There's still great love between the two countries, but you know, American people want product here. They want to make it here, and again, we want Canada to do great, but you know, there's a point at which we also want the same business. We're competing for the same business. That's the problem. That's why I keep mentioning one way to solve that problem is a very easy way. But we're competing for the same business. He wants to make cars, we want to make cars, and we're in competition. And the advantage we have is we have this massive market.
Now, due to these comments, that's why Pierre had this press conference and said what he said about Carney being a fraud and lying to Canadians. And this is a little bit more of how that went.
He didn't mean a word of it. His wife's firm was putting out memos in the middle of the campaign saying, don't worry about the Liberals promising to counter tariff and be tough on the U.S. They don't really mean it. They won't really do it. He was quietly removing the tariffs while going to campaign rallies promising to put them back on. He told the president in a phone call, I don't mean all that stuff I'm saying about you. So it means he's two-faced. And since the election has happened, he's done exactly the opposite of everything he promised. And I should be clear, this was not a promise. This was the promise he ran on in the election. It was the only thing that got him elected. He said, ignore 10 years of rising food prices, housing costs, out of control immigration and crime, because I'm the only guy who can negotiate with the Americans. And that turned out to be a gigantic fraud. So the entire foundation of Mark Carney's election campaign was not only a broken promise, it was a fraud for which thousands of Canadians are paying today with lost jobs. We cannot trust anything that Mark Carney says.
Now, I think it's pretty awesome that Pierre called him out, but to be fair, I don't really think it's anything new, especially for folks who watch this channel or any of the other political channels. We've been calling that out about Carney for a while now, how he manipulated Canadians, exploited them, this whole elbows up thing, the Donald Trump fear, and he has not delivered on any of the promises that he made during his campaign. But one thing that I will point out is that Pierre mentioned Diana Carney, his wife, and this firm that was sending out memos. And that firm is the Eurasia Group. And she's been connected to that for quite a while. But another individual who's been connected to it is Gerald Butts, which is Justin Trudeau's former PMO. He was in the PMO office. And basically the brainchild of a lot of Trudeau's decisions, a lot of this green tech implementation and all that kind of nonsense. And yesterday in Toronto, BMO and the Eurasia Group had an event, which was the US-Canada Summit, and there was a few notable people that were there. Danielle Smith was there, which I was a little surprised by. Doug Ford was there, and while Ford was there, he actually expressed his annoyance, essentially, with Howard Lutnick and his comments.
TV News has learned U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick is dismissing any prospect of a comprehensive auto deal with Canada. Sources say Lutnick made the comments via video at the Eurasia Group's Canada-U.S. Summit in Toronto. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has the details and reaction.
A comprehensive, collaborative auto deal between Canada and the U.S. not in the cards, according to the U.S. Commerce Secretary.
Manufacturing.
Howard Lutnick made the comments in a closed-door session of the 2025 U.S.-Canada Summit hosted by BMO and Eurasia Group. Sources in the room say Lutnick said Canada needs to come second to the U.S. on cars, that America could buy auto parts, but that's about it.
I would say it's a massive threat when you have the Secretary of Commerce coming out and saying that, and the President, you'd only say it if the President gave him the green light.
Ontario's auto industry has been struggling under the weight of tariffs and the uncertainty they've injected into the market.
As I've always said, the auto pack's been around since the 1960s. You can't unscramble an egg, you have to make the omelet larger.
Now, one thing I would correct from what Doug Ford was saying is that we don't actually have an auto pack anymore. That's been gone since 2001. If you want to pretend like Kuzma is an auto pack, sure you can, but technically it's not even remotely close to what an auto pack was back in the 60s till 2000s. But I understand his frustration. Doug Ford has a lot of these main sectors that are being hit by the Trump tariffs: steel, aluminum, the auto, as well as forestry. They're all getting slammed. So I understand his frustration. He did emphasize that Carney needs to do something, and it seems like he's getting a little bit more ticked off. But when we jump back to the press conference with Pierre, he actually handled a lot more questions from the media than he normally does. And one of them brought up Sean Fraser, immigration, and Pierre just kind of unloaded on him too. Take a look at this.
Oh, we see you in Washington.
Your division proposing a change to the birth registration in Canada. How far do you want to go on that? What do you make of Sean Fraser's reaction? Lashing out of the idea? How far?
Well, first of all, Sean Fraser, can you imagine? This guy is a human wrecking ball. Like, seriously, he was the Minister of Immigration that destroyed he destroyed the best immigration system in the world. Look at the graph. This was our immigration rate all along until someone named Sean Fraser came along and increased our population growth by 300% almost overnight. He single-handedly destroyed the consensus we had on immigration. He destroyed our housing market, our health care, and our job market. This one guy, and Mark Carney has promoted him now to be the Minister of Justice. So for him to lecture anybody on any matters of immigration is the height of liberal hypocrisy and shows nothing has changed after 10 years of the Trudeau government to the Carney one.
Now, Sean Fraser being described as a wrecking ball, I'd say is a pretty good one because all the files he touches basically get demolished. And yesterday he actually was called to a committee to be a witness to testify in the Justice and Human Rights Committee because he is the new Justice Minister. And while he was getting grilled by Larry Brock and Roman Baber, they questioned him, especially on his comments about the Wild Wild West, how this isn't the Wild West, this is Canada. Yet, when you look at the news, there's stories like this constantly now coming out, and it seems like it's just ramping up.
One day after a man was fatally injured on Lorraine Street in Richmond Hill, York Regional Police collect home security video in an effort to piece together what happened.
At this time, it appears that the attack was unprovoked and it was between two strangers.
54-year-old Amir Shafei was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries and was pronounced dead. The cause of death determined to be blunt force trauma.
The police have arrested one person close by. The arrest was made without incident. Police are currently not looking for any additional suspects.
23-year-old Raymond Kim of Richmond Hill now stands charged with second-degree murder and 2 counts of breach of probation. Police say at the time of this latest offense, Kim was bound by 2 probation orders for separate offenses. Investigators say the men were not known to each other, and the victim was outside his home when he was suddenly attacked.
It's random one case, but it cannot be random all the time.
Like many in the neighborhood, Ricky Wang checked his home surveillance cameras and found one clip of a man wearing a hood passing by just moments before the attack. He says police asked him to share this with them as they investigate.
This horrible thing happened just in front of my door. So what do you think of my feeling, right?
So we have a 23-year-old with 2 priors out on bail, and his next crime actually ends somebody's life. Yet when you have the other committees, if you look at the other committees that happened last week, you have this panel of women who come in and say, oh, that there's no data to show that if you have more repeat offenders that they're going to commit more crimes.
While we know that there are cases where individuals reoffend while on bail, as even the police associations acknowledged here last week, that occurs with only a small number of offenders. We should not be making sweeping reforms based on outliers. Certainly appreciate the concerns about repeat offenders, as I believe we all in this room do appreciate those concerns as well. I would start off by saying that I'm not sure that the empirical evidence supports the notion that there's a dramatic increase in crime. But I do see that there is a concern about repeat offenders. We want something to be done, but we want effective reforms. And effective reforms are evidence-based reforms. I want to see the evidence. I'm hearing a lot of concerns about Bill C-75 and how that's led to more repeat offenders. I want to see the evidence. I want to see the trends. I want to see the patterns. I want to see what's directly causing this so that we can directly address it.
I'm sorry, but have you been living under a rock for the past 1, 2, 10 years? I mean, you just have to turn on the news, read the paper, look at articles online. It's constantly in the news. But if evidence is what you really want, this just came out of Baltimore in the US doing the exact thing that the conservatives are trying to implement, and listen to the results that they got.
So after years of surging violence, Baltimore's top prosecutor says the tide is finally turning, and he knows why. Because he's been targeting repeat violent offenders and then keeping them off the street. Ivan Bates' office helped drive a 22% drop in homicides compared to last year, and he joins me now. Well, Ivan, so good to hear this story. And just because you realize that the same people are committing crime after crime, did you realize you'd have this type of impact simply by making them pay for their offenses?
Well, first of all, I want to say good morning to you and everybody. But we did. You know, for me, it was very important. Hold violent repeat offenders accountable, especially with illegal handguns. We had too many murders, 300 plus murders for 8 years straight. That's a terrible number to have. If you lock up violent repeat offenders, you hold them accountable. We invoke the mandatory minimum that allows it under the law 5 years without the possibility of parole. There's no discretion. The judge must give a violent repeat offender 5 years. You send them to jail. When you send those individuals to jail, the community is safer at that moment in time, and they can get themselves together, but they will be held accountable.
Yeah, kind of weird that if you lock people up who commit crimes over and over and over again, you see a decrease in crimes. And she keeps talking about that she wants evidence. Well, Aaron Gunn, one of the conservative MPs, provides her with evidence. And then when he asks her, what does she think about this? She has no answer and then has to pivot to her fellow panelist.
I'm glad you brought up the evidence. You referenced some statistics from, I believe it was maybe 2024 to 2025 or 2023 to 2024. But there's some other statistics there as well, as far as what's been happening since 2015. Violent crime up by 50%, homicides increased by 27%. Also, interestingly, 35% of those homicides in 2023 committed by a criminal on some sort of release, including bail. So I think if you look at public opinion, you look at the statistics provided by the government since 2015, since this new Liberal government came into power, violent crime is up across the board. So you can cherry pick different regions and different, 1 year, year-over-year periods within that. But how do you explain the undeniable increase in crime over the past 10 years?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Now, I'm not sure which way this lady leans politically, but I'm going to guess liberal because you tend to see this sort of responses from liberal-leaning individuals. And it's not all women, and it's not all liberal women, but there is a pattern that you start to recognize. And a prime example of this is a woman that was just exposed this week by Mario Zelaya, the Mario for the North gentleman. He does a lot of TikToks, and he's on X a lot. He does YouTube too, but I think he's more known for the other stuff. He just exposed Gregor Roberts' wife, the housing minister, who decided to go on her socials and put this video out to paint the conservatives in a certain way, and now is quickly backtracked because people found out who she really was.
Every day the Conservatives pick an issue they want to talk about during question period. Every Conservative member of Parliament gets a script with one-liners that they all repeat.
Or will they let Conservatives fix it for them? Or get out of the way so Conservatives can clean up their mess? Or will he just get out of the way?
This week, they went hard on crime. Listen to what their leader had to say.
Woman murdered by her own partner who was out on liberal release.
Okay, notice something interesting here. He said a man committed the crime. And listen here.
Greg Bershella, who was killed by a man.
And here.
How many women have to be then murdered? How many young...
I think I see a pattern. So I did some research. Turns out 92% of all violent crimes committed in Canada are committed by men. 92%. I have not seen one Conservative ever talk about the perpetrators of the crime except only when it serves them to speak it in the context of vilifying people of color or immigrant communities and exaggerating and fear-mongering. They keep shouting things like, lock 'em up, justice and order, yet never once address how we heal our communities, reach the men committing these acts, how we build systems that stop this from happening in the first place. No. They instead want to distract you from the fact that it's men, overwhelmingly men, committing these crimes, and just keep chanting, lock 'em up, lock 'em up. And you know who else loves that phrase, lock 'em up? People who don't know the first thing about doing the hard work of confronting men about violence and building systems that prevent harm in the first place. Why aren't we talking about the fact that it's some Conservatives who are fueling, empowering, emboldening men with their violent words of rage, discontent, and victimization?
A reality check on the fact that the Liberal Party has caused this in violent crime to skyrocket the second they came into power. The Conservatives, they're not in power. They don't make the laws. In fact, the laws created by the Liberals created this catastrophe. Now, this is the good part. The video made no sense to me. And it was almost like she was grasping at straws. And someone messaged me saying, Mario, she's married to him. This is the former mayor of Vancouver. This is Greg Robertson, the Liberal member of Parliament, who is now the Minister of Housing. This is the guy that Mark Carney chose. Her unhinged rant that she went off on the Conservatives now makes sense.
Now, I don't know if she thought this was groundbreaking news that 92% of most crimes are committed by men. I think a lot of people know that men are the main perpetrators of a lot of crimes. But the way she's painting Conservatives, saying that they just target people of color or minority groups and only when it suits their narrative, that's not even the case. I mean, we can see all of the reports that have happened for the past 2 months, and majority are from a certain group. You could look across the pond at the UK, look at all the violent crimes that are happening over there. Is from a certain group. And even Winnipeg put out this video yesterday talking about the top 3 most wanted individuals in Canada. You tell me if you notice something about it.
It's a Canada's most wanted list, and Winnipeg is home to 3 of the country's worst offenders still on the loose. Number 4 is Tresor Horemberry, wanted for first-degree murder in Winnipeg. There's a $100,000 reward for anyone who helps police make an arrest. At number 7 is Chad Dandan, wanted for first-degree murder, kidnapping, and extortion. And Youssef Abdul Kader Ali is wanted for 2 counts of attempted murder and multiple firearm-related charges. He's at number 17. The Be on the Lookout program, or BOLO, released its 25 most wanted list today in Vancouver. It began in 2018 as a national public awareness campaign. The program encourages Canadians to stay alert and help locate fugitives.
These dangerous individuals are somewhere among us right now.
If you have any information about these 3 men, you're asked to call the BOLO tip line at 431-334-9160.
Yeah, so I don't think I need to say much more on that topic. But to end today's video, I'm going to show you how Pierre ended his press conference because I found it quite amusing. But as always, let me know what you thought about today's episode in the comment section below. I hope you all have a fantastic Thanksgiving, and as always, I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.
Thank you. At the appropriate time. Thank you. I got to go to question period.
Question period. Thank you very much.
I got to go to question period. Mark Carney is going to be very upset with you if I miss question period, so I can't do that. He's going to be. I don't want to break his heart. I'm going to go to the House of Commons to see Mark Carney.
Thank you, folks. Merci.